DNA, a double helix structure that determines our phenotypes and possibly our sporting ability. In this documentary, we will look into the effect of genetics on elite sporting performance, hopefully providing insight into the impact that genetics has on sport, and how this affects where elite performers in sport come from on the globe, as well as weighing up whether genetics is the biggest factor affecting performance, or whether other factors play a more important role. Genetics in sport is a complex field that is still not fully understood by scientists, so in this documentary, I will try to the best of my ability to explain its impact by piecing together information from relevant scientific studies. Before I start, I think it's very important to stress that my research only accounts for averages. There will always be exceptions to the average, which we see very often, but in general, there is a pattern in many sports of where elite performers come from. While I would love to look into all people groups in the world, this would not be possible because there are so many, and not enough reliable research into them. So, I have only picked the biggest groups of people in major sports. I have researched into genetical factors, but also other factors that make an athlete successful, including many other cultural and economic factors. Sporting success is dependent on many key factors that are in an athlete's control. These include consistent training to bring about long-term adaptations, the intensity of training, the volume of training, the athlete's diet, motivation to succeed, and how recovery is handled. However, while these things are very decisive in whether people are exceptional athletes or not, I think that what is out of the athlete's control is the biggest contributor to whether an athlete makes it to the elite field of their sport. These factors include culture and opportunity, but also genetics, which appears to have a lot of impact on performance in sports. In a survey I conducted, 70% of people said they thought genetics had the biggest influence on performance. So, I will get to the bottom of the difference it is making. Let's look at the main factors I will be considering that are affected by genetics. Somatotype. This is the type of body shape you have. People tend to fall into a continuum of three categories for which somatotype they are. These include endomorphic. This is a very stocky, round build. These people are prone to putting on fat and muscle easily. They have a slow metabolism, which makes it hard to lose fat. Examples include Wayne Rooney and Serena Williams. Mesomorphic. This is a very strong, athletic build. People in this group tend to have wide muscular shoulders and thinner waists. They are well defined and gain muscle and fat easily. Examples of these athletes include Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps. Ectomorphic. These are very tall, lanky builds. People in this group tend to be skinny, with small joints and lean muscle. They usually have longer limbs and have thin shoulders and waists. Examples of these athletes include Eliud Kipchoge and Kelvin Kipton. Body composition. This is the percentage of fat, bone, water and muscle in the human body. This includes muscle composition, which plays a big part in the sports that someone may excel in. There are three types of muscle fibres which compose a muscle. I have shown these on the screen. Slow oxidative, type 1 muscle fibres. Fast oxidative glycolytic, type 2A muscle fibres. And fast glycolytic, type 2X muscle fibres. Firstly, let's talk about type 1 muscle fibres. These muscle fibres respire aerobically and have a high resistance to fatigue due to their high density of mitochondria and capillaries, which provide the muscle with large blood flow. However, they produce low amounts of force and have less glycogen for fast release energy. These muscle fibres suit long distance endurance athletes in events like the 5,000 metres and 10,000 metres. On the other hand, there is the fast glycolytic type 2X muscle fibres. These can produce force rapidly because of their high glycogen content, meaning they allow for powerful and explosive movements. But they have few mitochondria and capillaries, meaning they respire anaerobically, as they have limited blood supply. This, paired with their low resistance to fatigue, means that they suit anaerobic athletes in events like the 100 metres and 200 metres. There is also fast oxidative glycolytic type 2A muscle fibres, which are very much a middle ground between slow oxidative and fast glycolytic muscle fibres. They have moderate force production and resistance to fatigue, as well as moderate capillary and mitochondrial density, meaning they suit middle distance athletes in events like the 200 metre swim and the 1500 metre run. In regards to other components of body composition, including percentage fat and bone in the body, someone with a high percentage of fat might suit a rugby player more than an endurance runner, and high bone density is good for someone who is a martial artist, but bad for someone who does swimming. I think it's important to say this, as while one characteristic may have a negative effect in some sports, it will always benefit you in another sport. The next genetical factor is the ACTN3 gene, also known as the speed gene. It has two key variants, the R and X variant. Broadly speaking, these result in your body producing different types of muscle fibres. The two different variants result in three different genotypes, the XX genotype, the XR genotype, and the RR genotype. The XX genotype causes the body to produce more type 1 muscle fibres, meaning athletes better at endurance events tend to have this genotype. The XR genotype causes the body to produce more type 2A muscle fibres, meaning athletes better at middle distance events tend to have this genotype. And the RR genotype causes the body to produce more type 2X muscle fibres, and athletes better at power and speed based events tend to have this genotype. By looking at studies investigating the effect of this gene, it is very clear that it plays a big role in determining what sports someone might excel in. This is shown by a study by Atlas Sports Genetics, where they found that none of the 60 sprinters that were part of the Australian sprinting national team had the XX genotype, which produces type 1 muscle fibres. The third and final genetical characteristic is myostatin deficiency. Myostatin is a protein that limits muscle growth in the human body. It prevents there from being extreme muscle hypertrophy. Therefore, people with higher myostatin deficiency are able to put on more muscle quicker with less work. We would expect to see more of these people in power and strength-based sports, like long jump and sprinting events, because bigger muscles mean they can produce more force. Now moving on to other factors that affect performance that are not genetical. Culture. The country someone is born in heavily dictates what sports they become involved in. The sports a country plays and watches are more likely to be participated in by people from those countries, because of people being proud of success in the sport. Someone born in England would be likely to take up football, rugby, netball or athletics, as it's taught in schools, but may be less likely to take up other sports like skiing and weightlifting because of the lack of facilities and opportunity. Government funding. Sports that receive government funding have opportunity to have leagues and create much better facilities and grassroots schemes. This means that participation in these sports is much higher, and therefore the pool for finding elite athletes is larger. The age athletes begin training. In many countries, children are identified as likely to be successful in sports by talent identification schemes and put into a training schedule from a very young age. This means that they develop to better suit the sports and perform better when they are older. Socio-economic status. With many areas of the globe being very poor, playing sport for economic reasons to escape this poverty and live a more wealthy lifestyle is very motivational. However, having little money can also be detrimental, because multiple studies have shown that more wealthy people engage in much more sports, probably due to their more abundant free time and ability to buy equipment and kit. This is why richer countries have much more prevalence in world games like the Olympics, because their population has much more opportunity to play sport. I should also mention the main sports I will be talking about in this documentary. These will include long distance endurance running, sprinting, swimming, weightlifting, cycling and rugby. I have tried to avoid team sports like football and rugby, because the main factor leading to success is skill. Athletes are not exceptional at one aspect of the game, but they are good overall. Take Cristiano Ronaldo for example. He has an approach vertical jump of 30 inches, which is considered outstanding, while many NBA players have an average standing vertical jump of nearly 35 inches. However, I feel rugby deserves a special mention because of the presence of the Polynesian islands. Despite being so small and having such a small population, they still experience success. I will talk about these more when I talk about the Polynesian islands later on. Now let's begin with our first group of people, East Africans. When I refer to East Africans, I am talking about countries including Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Somalia and others in that area. Since the 1968 Mexico City Olympics, Kenyan and Ethiopian runners have dominated the long distance events in athletics and have exhibited dominance in international cross-country and road racing competitions, as well as in track events. If we look at the history of endurance events in the Olympics, including the 10,000 metres and 5,000 metres, 15 out of 18 of the titles have been won by athletes born in East African countries. But what is it that makes these athletes so much better than athletes from other countries? Well, this is down to a variety of factors, the first of which is somatotype. East Africans tend to have ectomorphic body types, with very few mesomorphic or endomorphic people. This allows for them to have a large stride length, and not carry around excess fat and muscle which uses energy and would make them slower. This also means that they have larger thoracic cavities, and therefore larger lungs, which allows for a larger surface area to volume ratio in the lungs. This allows for them to have more efficient gaseous exchange, and therefore better delivery of oxygen to working muscles and removal of carbon dioxide, allowing them to respire aerobically for longer. East Africans have a very high prevalence of the XX genotype of the ACTN3 speed gene. This variant of the ACTN3 gene results in the body producing a predominance of slow oxidative muscle fibres, which are useful in endurance events due to their fatigue-resistant properties. Body composition. They also have very lean bodies with little fat due to a tough lifestyle which requires a lot of physical work, and an agrarian traditional diet which has no fast food or processed food. Their diet consists of little sugars but lots of carbohydrates, which are the body's main source of long-term energy release. With their lean body comes little muscle. This is very advantageous in running because it means you are not carrying around excess weight, so you expend less energy. I think it would also be interesting to mention a technique of hunting known as persistent hunting. This is where you follow your prey until it collapses from exhaustion. East Africans were thought to have practiced this technique of hunting in their past, so they have developed evolutionary traits to make their aerobic endurance phenomenally good, so they were more successful while hunting. This could be a reason for their predominance in slow oxidative muscle fibres they have, which allows them to respire aerobically with maximal resistance to fatigue. They are born, they live and they train at high altitude. Areas of higher altitude have less air. This means that there is a smaller partial pressure of oxygen in the air, and therefore the pressure gradients in the lungs are smaller between the blood and the air, resulting in slower gaseous exchange. Therefore, by living at higher altitudes, your lungs adapt to be more efficient to meet the demands of the body. Because these regions of East Africa are very mountainous, a large percentage of the population live at high altitude, which means they have better lung efficiency. So it would make sense that they produce excellent endurance athletes. Living at altitude also stimulates your body to produce more of a glycoprotein called EPQ. This is produced in the kidneys and stimulates the production of red blood cells, meaning people that live at higher altitude have a larger volume of red blood cells, meaning their blood can become more saturated with oxygen. This boosts aerobic performance and is why many elite athletes train at altitude. Culture. With so many people becoming elite runners and using this as a way out of poverty, many people become inspired to try and do the same, which leads to a massive culture for running. Socio-economic status. In a journal written by Randall Wilbur and published by Human Kinetics, Wilbur said, "A strong psychological motivation to succeed athletically for the purpose of economic and social advancement is one of the main reasons for their success. This suggests that a major driving factor for East African success may be their desire to make money and escape poverty. So they try harder in training and races, resulting in better athletes being produced." Before we move on to West Africans, I will give some examples of elite sportsmen to demonstrate East African dominance in long distance events. Firstly, Eliud Kipchoge, the first human to run a sub 2 hour marathon and the current world record holder for the marathon, and he is also a double Olympic 5,000 metre medalist. There is also Kenyan Bekele, a 12-time world cross-country gold medalist and 3-time Olympic gold medalist. Secondly, let's talk about West Africans. When talking about West Africans, I'm talking about countries including Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali. These countries have been shown to have outstanding genetics for sprinting events, including the 100 and 200 metres on the track. The reasons for this include mesomorphic somatotype, high myostatin deficiencies, and the RR variation of the ACTN3 gene. Let's discuss these in more detail. Their mesomorphic somatotype means they have very wide muscular shoulders and thin waists with the ability to gain muscle easily. Along with this and their relatively small size means they have a low centre of mass, which means they fall to the ground quickly between strides, enabling them to utilise the power from their legs more and therefore run faster. According to locomotive laws, this gives them around 1.5% speed advantage to other people with different somatotypes. In addition, large muscular shoulders allow for more powerful arm movements which create and preserve momentum, meaning West Africans tend to decelerate less per step. This is also aided by their longer Achilles tendon, which gives them more elasticity. High myostatin deficiencies. Myostatin is a protein that prevents extreme muscle growth in the body. This can also be very useful in power-based sports, as having these deficiencies means you can put on muscle very quickly. For a sprinter, this would mean that they have more muscle mass, and so would be more powerful and explosive. On the screen I have put a map showing the results from a study by Matthew Saunders and others into myostatin deficiencies across the world. As you can see, West, Central and East Africans have the highest levels of myostatin deficiencies. So this may be a reason why we see more West Africans in sprinting. I think it is also important to mention the effect of culture. According to this map, we should see more East Africans in sprinting. But maybe because of the lack of exposure and culture around the sport in these parts of Africa, people don't get involved in the sport. They're potentially shown by the best sprinter from Africa currently, who is Ferdinand Omilana from Kenya. He won the Commonwealth Games 100 metres and is hoping for a good performance in the World Games. RR variation of the ACTN3 gene. West Africans have a high prevalence of the RX and RR genotype of the ACTN3 gene, resulting in more fast glycolytic muscle fibres being produced. These muscle fibres are also known as fast-twitch muscle fibres because they contract quickly. This is useful in sprinting events, as this means your legs will move quicker, and therefore you will be able to reach a higher top speed. Studies have shown that the RR variation of the gene is very common in West Africa, with roughly 97% of the population having the RR or RX genotype, while in Europe only 78% of people have the RR or RX variation. Once again, I would like to mention elite athletes from the sprinting field that demonstrate my point. Marcel Jacobs is the 2020 Tokyo Olympic 100 metre gold medalist, and his father is of West African descent, so he must have passed on the exceptional sprinting genes to his son. Afro-Americans. When talking about Afro-Americans, I am referring to people that have total or partial ancestry from black African racial groups, and also from South, Central and North America. We tend to see similar characteristics between West Africans and Afro-Americans, resulting in them specialising in similar sports, which include the 100 metres and 200 metres. This is because of the Atlantic slave trade, which resulted in the spread of West and Southwest African characteristics to the Americas. Because of the large percentage of the population being West African in the Caribbean and South America, much of the population is of West African descent, meaning they have similar characteristics to them. These characteristics include somatotype, body composition, and the RR and RX genotype of the ACTN3 gene. But another key factor that has led sprinting to be more successful in the Caribbean than West African countries is culture. In the Caribbean especially, there is a big culture around sprinting because of the success in the events that has come from the area. This results in much more people participating in sprinting events because they have seen athletes from their country succeed in the events, and so feel inspired to get involved with the sport themselves. This large participation rate is clearly shown in the results from my primary survey to the question, which nationalities were present/dominant in the 100 metres or 200 metre races, where the vast majority of people said that they had noticed Caribbean countries in these events. Because there are so many elite athletes from the Caribbean, this means that there is a large participation in those countries, which results in more elite athletes being produced. This, in my opinion, is one of the main factors that has led to their huge success in sprinting. The Caribbean success can be seen by looking at the medal tables of the Olympics for the last 6 Olympics. 13 out of 18 of the medals were won by Caribbean athletes in the women's category, and 8 out of 18 of the medals in the men's category. This is exceptional considering only 0.56% of the world's population is Caribbean. Somatotype. Similarly to West Africans, Afro-Americans have thin waists and muscular upper bodies, which gives them a powerful arm motion enabling them to preserve momentum. Their small size gives them a low centre of mass, which according to locomotive laws results in a 1.5% speed advantage over other athletes, because they can fall back to the ground quicker with each step. Body composition. Lots of muscle and low fat percentages allows them to produce large amounts of force but not have to carry around excess fat. They have a high prevalence of fast glycolytic muscle fibres, which makes their muscles contract quickly and powerfully. However, they fatigue quickly, but this is fine because the sprinting events are very short in duration. ACTN3 gene. Again, similarly to West Africans, Afro-Americans have a high prevalence of the RR and RX genotype of the ACTN3 gene, with 87% of their population having either the RR or RX genotype. This means that they have a large pool of potential elite athletes. This brings me back to the point I first made on culture. In the women's field, all 13 of the medals were won by Jamaicans. I find it very unlikely that just Jamaicans have exceptional genes for sprinting, by such a margin as to dominate by this much in the event. So I think that the driving factor to their success is the culture for the sport. To finish off the Afro-American section, let's talk about some elite athletes in the sprinting events. Usain Bolt, 8-time Olympic gold medalist, as well as 11-time world champion gold medalist. He currently holds the 100 metres and 200 metres world record, and I'm sure has led to an increased participation in sprinting. On the women's side, we have Shirley Ann Fraser-Pryce, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist and 10-time World Championship gold medalist. Polynesians. When I say Polynesians, I'm referring to the Pacific Island countries, including Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Vanuatu and others. If you have ever watched the sport of rugby, you may have wondered, like me, why there are so many Polynesian islands that play the sport. By looking at the Olympics for the last 2 events, you can see that the Fiji men team won the gold medal in both Rio and Tokyo Olympics, and the women's team won bronze in Tokyo. So why are they so successful, even with such a small population size, accounting for 0.01% of the world's population? Well, let's look into their physical characteristics that lead to this success. Somatotype. Many Polynesians are natural mesomorphs bordering endomorphs, which is the ideal body for rugby. It enables them to gain muscle easily and make them powerful, but they can also put on fat quite easily, which gives them more momentum and therefore an advantage in rugby. Pretty much the rest of the population are endomorphs, which put on fat easily and therefore have a more stocky, round figure, which again can be useful in rugby. The history as a people. The reason we see this high prevalence of mesomorphs and endomorphs is thought to be because of where the people that first lived on the Polynesian islands came from. Many people think they may have originated from Northeast Asia, where they would have been frequently exposed to very cold conditions, and therefore would have adapted better to cope with the cold. Furthermore, once they were living on the islands, they would have undergone regular, very long voyages, where they wouldn't have had food for many days, and would have frequently been exposed to cold, freezing temperatures on the Pacific Islands in the ocean. This would have led to only the strongest people and those with the largest fat stores to survive. Culture. As we know, rugby is a massive part of the Polynesian culture, which leads to a very large percentage of the population participating in the sport. This means that they are using all the potential they have in their country to produce elite athletes. Many people in the Polynesian islands are very poor, and so sport provides an opportunity to escape poverty and make money. This leads to them being very motivated to do well in sports, which of course leads to better performance. Government funding. Because the sport is so popular in these countries, they receive lots of funding from the government. This leads to many national leagues, where teams from across the country play each other, meaning there is huge opportunity for everyone to play sport. Body composition. To sum up their success, it is a result of their large percentage of fat and muscle in the body, and in general their large body size that makes them so successful in rugby. Paired with their culture for the sport in the Polynesian islands, they produce many elite athletes, which account for 20% of the elite professionals in rugby. Next we will consider Balkan, Middle Asian and East Central Asian countries. Balkan countries include those in southeastern Europe, including Bulgaria, Albania and Serbia, as well as more northern countries like Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia and others. Middle Asian countries include Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Russia, as well as others. And East Central Asian countries include China, Vietnam, Korea, Thailand and others. In the men's bantamweight, lightest weight category, we see 23 out of 30 of the medals go to East Central Asian countries. And in the men's super heavyweight, we see 25 out of 30 of the medals are won by Balkan and Middle Asian countries. Clearly we see that in the lightweight categories, East Central Asian countries dominate, while increasingly, as the weight increases, there is less East Central Asian athletes and more Balkan and Middle Asian athletes that are excelling in the sport. So why is this? We will be considering 5 factors: ACTN3 gene, culture, government funding, somatotype, and the age athletes begin training. Somatotype. East Central Asians have a short femur and long torso, which is good for an upright squat position, as well as short arms, so the bar doesn't have to be lifted as far. All of these features give them mechanical advantage, because the weight is closer to their body, so less effort is required to lift it from their arm muscles. They also have open hip and shoulder joints, giving them increased mobility, allowing them to fully utilise their glutes and quadriceps. Because of their mesomorphic build, they gain muscle easily and don't have much fat, meaning they tend to be smaller in stature, which is helpful as they don't have to lift excess weight. But this also means that they only participate in lighter weight categories. On the other hand, Balkan and East Asian countries have a large endomorphic bordering ectomorphic bodies, meaning they are stocky and relatively tall. This means that they are heavy and so participate in heavier weight classes. ACTN3 gene. Asians tend to have a high proportion of fast twitch muscle fibres because of the high prevalence of the RR and RX genotype of the ACTN3 gene, which allows them to contract their muscles quickly and powerful in the anaerobic contraction, which is quicker than aerobic contraction. Similarly, Balkan and East Central Asian countries have a higher than average prevalence of the RR and RX genotype of the ACTN3 gene, giving them the same benefits of quick, powerful muscle contractions. Another factor leading to these countries' success is culture. In all these countries, there is a strong culture for weightlifting, as you can see by looking at the sport itself. Many of you may have heard of the Bulgarian method of weightlifting training, which involves training few muscles at high intensity many times a day. This method, of course, came from Bulgaria and shows this part of the world's culture for the sport. Government funding and starting athletes from a young age. These countries are known for starting their children from a very young age and bringing them up participating in the sport. This means that the children develop more into performing the sport well and become more invested in it, enabling them to handle the intensity on their neuromuscular systems. When considering China's population size, it seems that they should produce much more athletes that are elite because of their large talent pool. However, as shown by the World IQ map, This part of the world has a very high IQ, and has a much heavier focus on academics and work. This may be why we don't see so many of them in sports, because academics is put before sport. Mixed athletes. In regards to mixed people, they are likely to inherit a mixture of both characteristics from their parents. This means that they may receive the best of both worlds from their parents' genetics. For example, Marcel Jacobs from Italy, receiving exceptional sprinting genetics from his father, who was of West African descent. Socio-economic status. I would also like to talk a bit about the relationship between socio-economic status and sport. Many studies have investigated whether people from more wealthy countries are likely to succeed in different sports. Nearly all the studies have shown that those with more money perform better in sports. This could be due to multiple factors, and is probably a result of all of these factors added up. More money to afford better diet and nutrition, more money for better equipment and kit, more money to join clubs, and more money for better clothing. This is especially clear in sports like swimming and cycling, where there is a clear absence of LICs and NICs in these sports. Having a closer look at the sport of swimming in particular, we have a very clear lack of black athletes and very few Asian athletes. In a study by USA Swimming, it was found that 60% of Afro-Americans between the ages of 6 and 16 could not swim, while 31% of white Americans could swim between the age of 6 and 16. On the screen I've put a chart of the Olympic medals won by Caucasians, Asians and Africans/Afro-Americans produced as part of the USA Swimming study, alongside a similar study for athletic events. Caucasian people have a higher centre of mass on average, which according to locomotive laws allows them to gain a 1.5% speed advantage in swimming over Asians, Africans and Afro-American athletes. This advantage, at an elite level, is enough to give them the edge in the sport. So, in this documentary, I hope I've helped to explain to the best of my ability the effect of genetics on elite sports, as well as other factors that are not hereditary that affect performance. Thanks for listening.